Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1977's The Sinful Pleasures of Reverend Starr. This is part of the Vinegar Syndrome Peakorama Big 3 unit show, and we are looking at this film right here. So let me try to get closer in on the poster art just for that one. This is a triple feature from the director Charles DeSantos. And we have 3 of his films on this Peakorama set here, about 19 bucks, something like that. And The Sinful Pleasures of Reverend Starr is 66 minutes long. It's from 1977, and keep your eyes peeled because you're gonna, if you know anything about the golden age of X-rated cinema, you're going to see some faces that you recognize, and even some people that might be a little bit younger or look a little bit different than you're used to. So this is a really, really not only an interesting title for a film, but an extremely interesting X-rated piece of cinematic art right here. And it is something that is fun, wild, and truly part of the redefinition of what cinema is. So, beautiful artwork on the poster. Let's get into this film right here, folks. Now, I have some notes written here, so you might see my eyes divert. Don't want to forget anything. One of the things that I wanted to mention is it's a 66-minute film. And when this film starts off, we enter into a pivotal point of the storyline immediately, something that will echo throughout the storyline of the film, and something that we will soon define and develop as the film goes on. And in this particular film, we are right at the get-go. We are jumping in, diving into this piece. Now, I have to tell you, right at the beginning of this film, there are such interesting edited movements between the characters about to enter into a sex scene together. The edits of them, kind of the fades from them moving from the right to the left, to the right to the left, clothing being slowly spewed upon the floor. And you can tell right off the bat right there that we have something special happening here with the editing. There is kind of, it's this, I call it the revelations of the hallway. As we have this first sex scene of the film in this hallway, something becomes revealed near the end. It's all part of the cinematic experience, the cinematic sexual experience of this hallway. And the edited movements right to left, and the lack of dialogue right here, jumping right in, right at the beginning of the film. And this is a film that has very little dialogue and very long stretches of no dialogue, of ritualistic no dialogue. More on that. Look at the graffiti on the walls outside as we're about to enter into this mysterious hallway of sex and undefined characters and symbols. Look at the graffiti and you'll see some phrases that deal with this film, and even see a phrase that later on in the film one of the characters will speak out of their own mouths. So look at the graffiti on the walls. It's almost as if the director of the film wrote that graffiti on the wall for this film, okay? We have hypnosis in this film. Mystical and exotic music. This is a film of music. It is a film of where the sound design is a humongous part of the experience of the film, especially since I mentioned there's very little dialogue. So the music becomes the dialogue, and in some cases the silence becomes the dialogue. Now, in other X-rated films that I've looked at on this YouTube page, hypnosis can play a factor. It's very, very interesting how hypnosis can play that factor. In this particular film, though, it goes beyond mere hypnosis. It goes beyond that into other elements of the mind and other elements of power and control. we have a theme in the film of kind of one of the characters talks about a conservative upbringing, and will that lead to later rebellion for daughters, for children. We have some very deep political dialogue going on here, kind of the sign of the times, between two police officers earlier on in the film. Very interesting deep political dialogue, and we have some police drama in the film as well between a male and a female cop, with some twists and some turns in their relationship as the film goes on. Now, the interesting thing is that characters will mention the fact that it's Chinese New Year, and you will hear fireworks going off, and they'll even mention that, and even obstructing the dialogue outside. And you'll hear this crazy fireworks, and you'll see the debris on the floor as well. And this is all part of this interesting kind of a new perspective on cinema, a redefinition of cinema that I mentioned at the beginning of this video so far, but where we can incorporate what is happening around us as part of the storyline. They're setting off fireworks as part of the Chinese New Year, and later on in the film, we will actually have footage of the actual parade in the city. So we will just write that into the script then. It'll just be, we'll just react to reality. We'll react to reality, and that is something really, really beautiful about X-rated cinema during this time, because you really see this redefinition of cinema there, and I'll look more at that very, very soon, because we really have a lot of documentary footage on the streets here, and that documentary footage on the streets takes the form of allowing people to stare into the camera, allowing people to wave into the camera, allowing people, one kid just jumps into the camera and waves while the actors are acting their scene here for the film. And that is all part, again, of what I call kind of not only reacting to reality with the Chinese New Year happening on the city streets, but also the aspect of allowing reality to happen into the camera. Almost, people would never allow that today, but they would edit it out. And if they couldn't edit it out, they'd have to reshoot, or they'd have to just throw out all the footage altogether. In this particular case, it reminds me at some times of the way Franco shot his films, Jess Franco. And we have this element of allowing reality within the storyline of the film. Just shooting, filming, getting it all, and it becomes another cinematic reality when that happens. Something special, something different, something unique. We have groovy disco funk in the soundtrack for this film. We also have some very sleazy jazz at one point. And then the soundtrack for this film incorporates two pieces where it's just one sole instrument. In one case, it's a saxophone. In another case, it's some exotic acoustic guitar of some sort. In the case of the saxophone, it is pure acid sounding jazz. Just wild, unhindered. Almost reminded me of the more modern saxophonist composer named John Zorn, who did some work with Mr. Mike Patton, and from Faith No More and Mr. Bungle and Phantomus and Tomahawk and tons of other groups. But John Zorn, very wild and insane and almost abrasive acid jazz soul saxophone work here. Now, keep your eyes peeled, because you'll see tons of Coors Light beer cans, especially near the beginning of the film. We have music that incorporates hand percussion as well. As I mentioned earlier on, it's exotic, it's mystical. Check out the way, not only at the beginning sex scene in the hallway of Revelation, but also check out later on in the film the way this film is edited and cut. There is a movement, there is a ballet in the cuts and in the edits in the sex scenes for this film, which is so interesting, because you would think with the movement and the artistry of the cutting and the editing that they would just cut out the people waving in the camera, or maybe cut out some of the fireworks earlier on. And that brings the whole beauty of what this cinema is. Why? allowing that in there, allowing reality to impede upon your storyline. Well, now we're going to redefine what the storyline is as well, folks. That this film could actually redefine storyline as well. We have ritual, cult activity and themes in this film, chanting, some of the most sexual uses, most erotic uses of saran wrap that I've ever seen before. Look at the characters' bodies and faces. You'll even see some sparkles, even in the guys' faces. Weird plays with focus. I just looked at the film on this YouTube page, Eugenie by Jess Franco from 1969, where a lot of things were out of focus and he was playing with that. In this particular film, too, we also have those plays with focus and out of focus as well. While there is tons of this music that I've talked about that will bring you into a ritualistic cult trance, because this film is an experience. It's almost a ritualistic experience. It brings you in. It's a ride with little dialogue. It's a ride. We also have the stopping of all music, and in the stopping of all music, that it just leaves you bare in the sex ritual. We have a symbol in this film that is not only on a piece of jewelry, but it is also in the backdrops of scenes, on the wall. Okay, a bit of production design here. We have a twist in the film that involves the police and the concepts of danger and pleasure. We even have an element in the story of involving drugs and even Satan. Yes, the occult, but it's in, and even crime, kind of crime lord syndicates, but it's in, what makes it so utterly unique is in the aspect and in the connection between crime, Satan, and drugs. That's where we got a unique element here, folks. And we have real parade footage, as I mentioned before, that's actually intercut with, or at the same time happening with characters. It's not stock footage. It's like they're actually filming it, and the characters in our film are committing violent acts while the parade is going on. A bit of vengeance. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This is really an experience, and it's really, the sex scenes. We have a lot of orgies in the film, but nothing, very sensual, very erotic. It's hardcore, and at times it has a softer element to it, to me. The camera gets close, but it's not... It's a different kind of vibe going on here, and it's very ritualistic, and it's very erotic, and lots of focus on ejaculation. There's a very erotic anal scene involving fingers and intercourse, but nothing gaping, of course. This is the old times, not too much gaping buttholes or anything. And there's just these elements, and even the girl from the end of the original Babyface that I talked about earlier on in another video, in Babyface 2, that I said you saw some of her poop. I believe she's in this film as well, and I believe her name is... Oh gosh, I think she had a lot of different pseudonyms. Maybe Veronica Taylor, but maybe not. I don't think so, actually. But she's in this film as well, I believe, and looks very hot, very sexy, and just awesome vibes. Lots of sex, lots of ritual, lots of experience. It's a ride. Great butt shots in the film. Lesbian shots, masks, almost like, Eyes Wide Shut by Kubrick. Here it is, folks. This is The Sinful Pleasures of Reverend Starr from 1977. Yes, yes.